Something followed a land surveyor through 6 miles of Idaho backcountry. He never got a good look at it. I've got 3 accounts tonight. Each one from someone who went into the wilderness and came back with something they can't explain. Let's get into it. 6 miles in. I've been doing remote land surveys for about 15 years. Solo work, mostly. Places with no signal, no people, sometimes no real trail to follow. I liked it that way. 4 years ago I was up in the Clearwater region in Idaho, dense mountain timber, no roads anywhere near me. 6 miles of hiking just to reach where I'd set up camp. First day was fine. Found my markers, logged everything, made it back to camp before dark. I had a system, filed my route with the ranger station, week of supplies, satellite phone. It all ran smooth. That night felt like every other solo night I'd had out there. Quiet. Cold. Normal. Day 2 the snow came in way heavier than the forecast said. I should have stopped right there. But the next marker was only about a mile out, and I told myself that was close enough to push for. Still think about that call. One of those decisions where you know it's probably wrong but you do it anyway. Coming down a short embankment, my boot hit a patch of ice that the snow had completely buried. I went down fast, slid maybe 15 feet before a root caught me. Lay there for a second just listening to myself breathe. Stood up, put weight on my right ankle, and that was it. Bad sprain, minimum. 6 miles from the truck. Alone. I sat against a tree and thought it through. 6 miles on a healthy ankle, good conditions, 2 hours. Hurt, in snow, could be 4 or more. I had the satellite phone. Could have called for a rescue right then. Almost did. Instead I wrapped the ankle as tight as I could and started moving. That was the second bad decision of the day. A few minutes in, I noticed boot tracks on the trail. Coming out of the trees on my left, heading the same way I was going. Edges still sharp, so recent. Out here in this weather, that should have meant nothing. A hunter, maybe someone checking the property. I noticed it and kept walking. Light was dropping. That's when I started hearing footsteps behind me. Maybe 40 feet back, keeping my pace. I stopped. They stopped, but about a full beat after me. Just stood there listening. Wind. Nothing else. Walked again. Few minutes later, there they were. I tried to tell myself it was an echo. Sound bouncing off the trees, making my own steps sound like they were behind me. That's a real thing. Except echoes don't start a full second late. And they don't stop when you stop and start again when you start. Whatever was back there, it was listening. Then a sound off to my left. Metallic. Like someone lightly tapping a pipe against something hollow. Miles from any structure. No reason for that sound to exist out there. I had nothing. And while I was trying to work it out, I stopped watching the trail. I looked down and the tracks I'd been following were gone. Turned around, couldn't find where they'd peeled off. Then I looked left. New set of prints coming out of the treeline, running right next to mine through the snow. Close. Like arm's length close. Whoever had been on the trail ahead of me was now in the trees, walking beside me. I called out. Asked if someone was there. My voice didn't go far. 20 seconds of nothing. And there was nothing I could do about any of it. Bad ankle, no light left, miles to go. So I kept moving. The footstep sounds had gone quiet. I was starting to feel a little better about that. Then behind me, a branch. Heavy. The kind that breaks when something with real weight steps down on purpose. Not wind. Not a fall. I didn't stop. Made it to camp. Fully dark by then. Got inside and immediately understood, 4 millimeters of nylon means nothing. Started packing right away. Ankle screaming. The thing I kept coming back to was that if something actually came at me out here, I had no ability to run. No ability to fight. That's a very specific kind of fear. Then footsteps. Right outside. Not coming toward the tent, going around it. Slow. Like they wanted me to hear it. I sat completely still, one hand on my pack, didn't make a sound. It went on for what felt like 5 minutes. Then stopped. I never heard them walk away. I sat in the dark for a few more minutes after it stopped. Listening. Every time the wind hit the tent my heart spiked. I kept telling myself, if they were going to come through, they would have already. I'm not sure I believed that. But eventually I unzipped the door and stepped out. Swept my headlamp toward the trees and screamed. There was a man standing at the treeline. Old, genuinely old, and sickly. Way too thin. Like someone who had been living out there a long time and not well. Completely still. Just watching me. Not moving toward me. Not moving at all. I put my hands up. Told him I wasn't looking for trouble. He didn't say anything. We just stood there, him staring, me not moving. Finally he spoke. 4 words. He said, "You're a lucky man." Then turned and walked into the trees. If he wanted to hurt me that night, bad ankle, pitch dark, 6 miles from the road, there would have been nothing I could have done. I know that. I reported it. Nothing came of it. Didn't take another winter solo contract for almost a year. Still do remote work, it's how I make a living, but I don't camp alone in winter anymore. Someone comes with me or I turn the job down. That's just how it is now. And the thing I keep coming back to is that he chose to let me walk away. Next one comes from northern Alaska. A wilderness guide, grew up out there, knows that terrain better than most people know their own street. On the day this happened, none of that experience helped her. The cabin. Grew up in Fairbanks. Been guiding professionally since my early 20s. By the time this happened, I had more hours in the Alaska backcountry than I could count. My boyfriend Randy was the same way, raised in rural BC, honestly more experienced than me in some things, especially winter navigation. We'd done this route twice before. 2 registered cabins, 60 miles apart, for days out and back. Weather looked clear. Neither of us was worried. First day was easy. Got to the second cabin by late afternoon, ate these freeze-dried things Randy kept saying were good, they weren't, and played cards until we fell asleep. Completely relaxed evening. Nothing to even hint at what the next morning was going to be. Woke up to a full blizzard. Nothing in the forecast had even suggested it. We had food, we had shelter, we could have waited it out. We didn't. We just left anyway. I still don't fully understand why. Within an hour of riding, I understood exactly how bad that decision was. Randy was leading. 1 second he was ahead of me, and then his machine was on top of him. Got to him as fast as I could. His leg was broken, badly, obviously. This is a guy who once finished a 2-day trek on a sprained ankle and didn't bring it up until we were back at the truck. When I saw his face this time, I knew it was different. First move was obvious: get him on my machine, ride us out. He's 6'2", 220. In deep snow on an Arctic cat, that's not simple. Got him up once, half-dragged him onto the seat. He lasted about 10 seconds before he went sideways. The sound he made when he hit the snow again, I don't want to hear that again. We tried one more time. He told me to stop. Not asking. Telling. Got the satellite phone out. Hands shaking bad enough I almost dropped it twice. Sent our coordinates. Wasn't sure it went through. We both knew waiting on a rescue we couldn't confirm wasn't a real plan. So the actual plan was, layer everything we had onto him, mark the GPS, and ride hard for the nearest cabin and its emergency radio. We didn't talk about it much. He looked at me. I looked at him. I covered him up and left him in the snow. I rode as hard as I could in zero visibility. GPS in one hand, throttle in the other. Every minute out there was another minute Randy was getting colder. I kept doing the math in my head and the math kept getting worse. That's not the headspace you want when you're trying to navigate. Which is probably why, about 45 minutes in, I realized I had no idea where I was. The terrain didn't look right. I'd ridden that route twice, I know what it's supposed to feel like. Kept telling myself it was the blizzard messing with everything. But it didn't get better, it got worse. And then I saw smoke. Smoke through the pines off to my left. I turned toward it, figured maybe I'd somehow looped back to one of the cabins. But what I found didn't match either one. Smaller. Rougher built. One wall almost buried under the drift. Fire going inside, light in the window. Randy was back there getting hypothermic. Smoke means warmth. Warmth means a radio. I cut the engine and went in. Door was unlocked. Inside, genuinely warm, fire going strong. Bedroll on the floor. Food can with the spoon still standing in it. Looked like someone stepped out 2 minutes before I walked in. I called out. Nothing. Tried the satellite phone, no signal. And then I looked over at the shelf. Trail map. I unfolded it. Sections circled in marker, and I recognized 2 of them right away. Both cabins we'd been staying at. Dates written next to each one going back 2 years. Someone had been tracking when people used those cabins. We'd ridden past this place on both previous trips, which meant whoever lived here had already seen us. There was a notebook. I opened it. Descriptions of people, what they had on, which direction they were heading, which route they took. Season after season of it. Randy and I had probably been in those pages. I put it down and went straight for the door. 2 steps from the door. That's when it happened. The loudest sound I've ever heard in my life, coming from directly underneath me. From under the floorboards. A woman screaming. Not words, just raw sound. The kind that means someone has completely run out of options. It hit me so hard I actually left the ground. And then I ran. Made it to the cabin. Got through on the emergency radio. They sent a helicopter for Randy, hypothermic, leg badly broken, but alive. He made it. When I told people about the cabin and the scream, they sent a team out. Found nothing. No structure. No tracks. The officer I talked to actually suggested I'd hallucinated the whole thing. I ended that call. 3 ways to explain it. 1. I hallucinated the whole thing. Half frozen, terrified, my brain built a detailed 10-minute experience inside a building that didn't exist. I can't rule that out completely. 2. It was real, there was a woman under those floorboards, and I ran. Whatever happened to her after that I'll never know. 3. It was a trap. The smoke, the light, the unlocked door, all of it designed to pull someone in. And that scream was from someone who walked in before me. If I'd gotten there a little earlier, it would have been me down there. This one is a bit different. No blizzard, no injury. Just a kid who liked a girl, said yes to a hike, and ended up running through the woods with 2 strangers behind him. The girl who picked the trail. Junior year. There was this girl, Sienna. Genuinely hard to explain what made her different. Pretty, sure, but it wasn't that. She had this way of standing in a crowded hallway and seeming completely alone, not in a sad way, just in her own world. Most people thought she was cold. I was fascinated by her. Probably read too many fantasy novels at the time. One day I was talking to my friend, said her name out loud, and literally as I said it, she came around the corner. Mortifying. She made a comment and kept walking. I had about 3 seconds of window. Asked her out. She stopped, gave me this look that could have meant anything, and then said yes. Handed me her number and walked away before I could even respond. She planned everything after that. The day, the trail, the drive. Her terms, start to finish. 45-minute drive to a trail I'd never heard of. She drove the whole way without GPS or a map. Window down, playing music I didn't recognize. We pulled into a small gravel lot, 2 other cars, and she just started walking. No hesitation. First 20 minutes were actually good. She was more open than I'd ever seen her. Even asked about the story I was writing. I genuinely thought it was going well. Trail split. I asked which way. She pointed left without even looking up. No pause, no map check, nothing. I asked if she'd been here before. She said no. But the way she answered, instantly, without thinking, it didn't line up. The left fork was rough. Overgrown. The kind of path that feels like it was left that way. I didn't push back. I wish I had. Trail went single file. She gestured me ahead. At some point I realized I couldn't hear her footsteps anymore. Turned around, empty trail. Called her name. Nothing. Walked all the way back to the fork. Not there. No gap in the trees she could have stepped into. She was just gone. I stood at that fork and felt the whole thing shift. Tried the other fork. Even more overgrown. Kept calling her name. Nothing. The further I went, the more something felt off, not just about where she was, but about the place. Like it had been kept this way. Like nobody was supposed to come down here. Then a branch snapped. Movement behind a thick trunk to my left. I actually thought it was Sienna messing with me. That would have been exactly her style. So I crept up and jumped around the tree. It wasn't her. It was a man. Tall, middle-aged, looking at me like I was exactly where he expected me to be. He didn't flinch. He started walking toward me. I turned back for the trail, and the second guy was already there. Standing in the open, not even pretending to hide. Something in his hand, long, looked like a branch. He didn't need to hide. I ran. Ran through the woods with no sense of direction, just away. Both of them came after me, not even trying to be quiet anymore. Something grabbed my ankle and I went down hard. First guy, on the ground, trying to hold me. I kicked until I got loose. Scrambled back up. Kept going. Eventually found the trail and didn't stop until I hit gravel. Made the parking lot. Both of the other cars were gone. Sienna's was still there, which meant she was somewhere. Called her 10 times. No answer. I was about to call the police when she texted, asking where I went. Looked up and there she was. Walking out of the trees. Completely calm. Not a scratch on her. I told her what happened. She listened, didn't go pale, didn't reach for her phone. Just looked at me with this expression I still haven't been able to fully read. Like she was waiting to hear which version I was going to tell. Asked where she'd gone. She said she thought I'd moved ahead without her and spent the whole time trying to catch up. That couldn't be true. I walked the full way back to the fork. She wasn't on any part of that trail. Once I started pulling on that, the trail she chose, the fork she picked without hesitating, the way she put me out front, it started looking like something that had been set up. That night I went through the whole day again. She drove to a trail she'd never been to, without GPS, picked a fork without thinking. Put me in front. Disappeared at exactly the right moment. Walked out of the trees looking like nothing happened. I've never been able to arrange those pieces in a way that makes her innocent. We didn't talk after that. She dropped me off. Never saw her again, no reach out from either side. I've told this story a handful of times and the reaction is always the same. She set you up. She knew the trail, she knew those men. I've thought about it more times than I can count. What I can't get to is why. What was the actual point? And why me specifically? Sienna's not on social media anywhere. I have no idea where she ended up. Some things just don't get an answer. An old man who said 4 words and walked back into the dark. A woman screaming under floorboards in a cabin nobody else could find. And a girl who picked a trail she'd never been to and knew exactly which way to turn. I don't have answers for any of it. If you're heading out into the backcountry, go with someone. Tell someone where you're going. And if something out there feels wrong, trust it. See you next time.